Good evening, everyone. We're going to get started now. Thank you for coming tonight. I wanted to provide a brief introduction to the team and the project. This is public meeting number 2 for the Junipero Serra Trail, which will provide a vital off-street east-west connection across Cupertino for bicyclists and pedestrians. The community, including families, commuters, and several groups like Walk by Cupertino, have demonstrated a strong interest and support the project. We are early in the design process, and your input at this time facilitates a design that works best for our community. Staff is working with the grant administrator, VTA, on renaming the trail. If approved, the name will reflect Cupertino's character, and we will involve the community in the renaming process. There is a possibility of renaming the trail once the construction is complete and VTA is no longer involved. I am Evelyn, one of the project managers for the project. We have Joanne Johnson, another project manager on the city side. We have David from Calendar and Associates and Kwong from BKF Engineers. The meeting will begin with a 30-minute presentation. Following the presentation, we will have time for Q&A. Please raise your hand and you will be added to the queue. Once it's your turn, you will be unmute and have 3 minutes to speak. You may also write your comments in the chat and staff will read them out loud during the Q&A period. So this is our agenda for tonight. We have project background, process, existing conditions, trail concept, safety, privacy, security, group discussion, and next steps. So the Junipero Serra Trail project is consistent with a number of local plans, including our 2016 Bicycle Transportation Plan and the 2018 Pedestrian Transportation Plan. Both plans outline goals to enhance mobility and improve bicycle pedestrian connectivity within the city. Both plans and the Junipero Serra Trail, within both plans, the trail is identified as a Tier 1 high priority project. In the 2016 Bicycle Transportation Plan, the recommended implementation of the loop trail around Cupertino. The Junipero Serra Trail would create a Class 1 facility that runs along the Junipero Serra Trail Channel, the Regnart Creek, and Interstate 280. The trail is one leg of the larger loop, which will provide an off-street network of bicycle and pedestrian paths which circumnavigate the city and link key destinations. The 2019 Feasibility Study. In 2017, the city's capital budget authorized funding of the Junipero Serra Trail Feasibility Study. City staff hired Calendar and Associates to complete this work. The study included a review of existing conditions along the trail alignment, research and documentation of trail design criteria, the development and evaluation of various alternatives, and public outreach. In February 2019, the study was reviewed and endorsed by City Council, and in May 2019, Council adopted the final feasibility study. During feasibility, the trail was divided into 3 segments. Segment 1 is defined as the segment between the Don Burnett Bridge and the Anza Boulevard. Segment 2, which is now the central segment, and is the segment between Anza Boulevard and Wolf Road. Segment 3, now the east segment, is the segment between Wolf Road and Vallco Parkway. Alternative 1 of the feasibility study. The trail alignment cost matrix in the feasibility study allowed decision makers to see various estimates for each alternative. The city selected alternative 1 because it was financially rational, and in December of 2018, the Bicycle Pedestrian Committee endorsed this alternative. The JST Central and JST East. The city decided to initiate the project with the east and central segments first because they posed the fewest engineering challenges and felt that the east and central segments would generate higher usage from commuters and residents. The east and central segments of JST are eligible for Measure B funding grant administered by the VTA. Information gathering and concept phase. Getting to this point in the project started in July 2020 when the design team was selected from a pool of qualified candidates via an RFQ. Then the survey and site inventory for the East and Central were collected between December 2020 to February 2021. And during the months from March to May of this year, the concept design for the East and Central was developed. We have 3 community meetings to provide input. Tonight, we will focus on residents in proximity to the central segment, and in the May 27th meeting, focus will be on citywide input. Refinement and construction phase. From the summer of 2021 to 2022, the design team will analyze the community input gathered and refine the design. In fall of 2021, we will have a community meeting. Council must authorize the construction award so that the earliest date construction could start would be fall of 2022 for the east segment. In early 2023, the East Trail opens and the central segment development begins. Now the design team will walk through the existing conditions and concept plans.
All right, thanks, Evelyn. For starters, I wanted to walk you through the existing conditions of the corridor. This first image shows a typical condition within the central segment. As you can see, the channel in this section is aligned with concrete throughout the segment. And then the distance between the top of the channel edge and the fence varies throughout this segment. In some instances, 8 feet and all the way up to 14 feet and more. Here are some images of the various conditions in the central segment. The upper left image shows the bend in North Blaney Avenue, where it meets the proposed trail, and that's Lucille Avenue in the distance. And then all the other images show the existing maintenance road next to the concrete line channel. In contrast to the central segment, the east segment is generally a little bit wider, and the channel in this segment is unlined, meaning no concrete. And in many areas, the distance between the top of the channel edge and the fence is 14 feet or more. Here you can see the unlined channel and the generally wider maintenance road alongside it. The east segment is also where the confluence of the channel and Calabasas Creek occurs. You can see that condition in the lower left image. The proposed trail then runs south adjacent to Calabasas Creek all the way to Vallco Parkway. At this point, I wanted to walk you through the trail concept. And so that would include review of the trail alignment, proposed trailhead locations in both the central and the east segments, as well as trail cross sections. The images on this slide are intended to give you a sense of the look and feel of the trail. The proposed trail would have trailheads where people can rest, gather as a group, and learn about interesting aspects of the area through interpretive signage. The materials used in these spaces would include pavers, decorative concrete bands, railing, concrete seat walls, as well as at-grade decking. So starting with the central segment, going from west to east, this segment starts at Anza Blvd on the west and ends at Wolf Road on the east. The west segment is not being designed at this time, but the intent is that it would continue west from Anza Blvd all the way to Mary Avenue. And so the first trailhead opportunity occurs on the east side of Anza Blvd, where you see the yellow box on the screen. At this location, there would be a small trailhead with concrete seat wall and pavers. Each trailhead that we're going to present this evening has a concrete band indicating where you are in the world, and that would have latitude and longitude as well as elevation indicated on that band. And then here's a typical cross section through this portion of the trail. The paved trail surface is 8 feet wide with 2 foot wide decomposed granite shoulders on both sides where space permits. And then in all cases where we're adjacent to the open concrete lined channel, we're also proposing a guardrail. Here's another section. This is cut at Lucille Avenue. And so this represents that condition. And again, the paved surface is 8 feet wide with 2 foot wide decomposed granite shoulders on both sides. And then the space between the trail edge and Lucille Avenue at the street is planted just to provide a buffered edge. So at this point, I want to turn it over to Kwong with BKF to talk a little bit about the bend at North Blaney Avenue and how the trail interacts with that. Okay, maybe we lost Kwong. I think we have some audio issues with Kwong. So I'm going to continue here. So we'll talk a little bit about the trailhead at Lucille. This trailhead is proposed near the corner of Lucille Avenue and Villa de Anza Avenue, just west of the Blaney Avenue overcrossing. This trailhead provides seating, pavers, landscape improvements, an interpretive sign, and a new crosswalk promoting safer access from the neighborhoods to the south. Here's the cross section through this particular trailhead. Notice that the channel is in a culvert and underground and runs directly beneath the trailhead at this location. And this is a visual simulation that shows how that trailhead relates to the trail as it passes through east-west. And also how it relates to Lucille Avenue, the crosswalk that crosses Lucille Avenue, as well as the Interstate 280 sound wall beyond. Moving eastward towards Wolf Road, this cross-section illustrates the condition where the trail is immediately adjacent to the southbound 280 off-ramp at Wolf Road. The trail is immediately next to that off-ramp within a 15-foot wide easement, and this is adjacent to the new development at Vallco. And this is just showing in plan view the trail alignment as it approaches Perimeter Road. And you can also see that there is a planned trail spur connection to Wolf Road from the trail, as well as stairs down to Perimeter Road. So this is the planned trailhead at Vallco. So this would provide a connection to the future development at Vallco, and trail users can continue eastbound under Wolf Road and on to the east segment. The trailhead also provides seating, pavers, and landscape improvements. Now talking about the east segment, again, starting from west to east, this starts at Wolf Road at the Hyatt House Hotel, and then it would finish at Vallco Parkway immediately adjacent to Calabasas Creek. We do have a connection behind Hyatt House. Hyatt House constructed a pathway as a part of their development, and so there would be a connection that our trail would make there, and that comes all the way down to Perimeter Road. This is just a typical section behind the Apple campus. And again, the trail here also has an 8-foot wide paved section with the 2-foot wide decomposed granite shoulders. In some areas, a low retaining curb or wall may be needed to create a level area for a trail. And so that's indicated in that cross section. So where the channel meets Calabasas Creek, the trail turns to the south and creates a great trailhead opportunity. So we've called it the promontory. It provides a good observation point of the confluence of Calabasas Creek and the channel. Decking is proposed along the creek side of the trailhead with pavers elsewhere. And then seating is provided beneath some large existing redwoods, and an interpretive sign is proposed on the railing overlooking the creek, talking about the flora and fauna of Calabasas Creek. And then here's just a visual simulation of how that might look. This is looking towards Calabasas Creek, and you can see on the right-hand side the bend of the trail as it's heading towards Vallco Parkway, off to the upper right corner of that image. And then here's a cross section. This is as we're approaching Vallco Parkway, and this is where the trail is immediately adjacent to Calabasas Creek. So we have more space available here. So the trail widens along the creek. The paved portion here is 10 feet wide with two 2-foot wide decomposed granite shoulders for a total width of 14 feet. And at this location, you'll notice that no guardrail is proposed between the trail and the creek, as the slopes are gentler and the distance to the creek is further. And then our trail terminus at the east segment is in that yellow box. This is at Vallco Parkway. And this trailhead, it directs trail users to the signalized intersection at Main Street and Vallco Parkway, and also ties into the existing sidewalk that fronts the Apple campus at this location. There would also be seating and landscape improvements proposed for this trailhead. Okay, so I wanted to transition from the trail concept to talk a little bit about safety and privacy concerns for both trail users and adjacent residents. This is a photo of an existing fence behind a residence. While there is a fence in place, there's not much in the way of privacy for the resident in this case. The city understands there are different conditions throughout and will evaluate fence conditions on a case-by-case basis along the trail alignment. Additionally, depending on need, the city would also evaluate a trail patrol program should that need arise. Another notion is the idea of a milestone marker along the trail, or milestone markers, I should say. These can be a good tool for emergency response. Calling 911 and giving the dispatcher milestone marker location gives the first responders a quick way to find someone that's on the trail that might be in distress. Generally, lighting is not planned to be a component of the project. The trail will be open from dawn to dusk as a matter of policy. To assist trail commuters in winter months, some low-level lighting may be considered at a few of the trailheads just to aid in wayfinding and being safe at the trail crossings and nodes. So at this point, I'd like to open it up for group discussion. We've allotted 60 minutes for group discussion, and so you can submit your questions in a couple of different ways, and I already see a couple in the Q&A right now. So you can submit those through the Q&A, or you can join the queue and we can actually hear your voice and answer your questions verbally. So if we do happen to run out of time, you can email jstproject@cupertino.org should you have any questions, or you can join next week's public meeting as always. So with that, I think I wanted to open it up. I do see a couple of questions that have come in. And if you're all right with it, Evelyn, I can just go ahead and read those. So the first one I see is from Jennifer Griffin. A charity is seeking to buy the Outback restaurant on Sunnyvale Saratoga Road and have supportive housing. This may become a magnet for homeless who are seeking supportive services and may begin camping on the trail by 280 and the Sunnyvale Saratoga portion of the trail. What provisions can be taken to deal with this issue if campers begin camping on the trail? The county is involved in the supportive services housing at Outback. Will the county be responsible for any issues with campers? So when you say Saratoga Sunnyvale, I'm assuming you mean also De Anza Boulevard, right? That crossing. I don't know if anyone from the city wanted to tackle that one. I can take a shot at it.
Yeah, so it would be no different if it occurred at any other location in the city. So we would involve our code enforcement and the sheriff's department to be notified of any trespassing or any camping of any kind. We would also do reach out for supportive services for individuals, maybe to relocate them and get any services that they may need.
And there's another question here. What speeds will bikes be kept at? There will be people walking with pets, so people have to be careful not to go too fast. I think that's one where signage can be posted for speed limit. And I don't know if there is precedent in the city on any other trails where there are posted speed limits for bikes. But that is certainly something I've seen elsewhere in the county. And typically I've seen 15 miles an hour, but I don't know if anyone from the city wants to weigh in on that.
David, do you have any input on what the speed limit is at our other trails? I know VTA does 15 miles per hour, and we would definitely be putting in signage just to make bicyclists aware of pedestrians and to slow down when there is a pedestrian.
Yeah, that's likely what we would be doing in this case also. We don't have, to my knowledge, actually I believe there are, we don't have any speed limit signs to my knowledge on the Saratoga Creek Trail. I believe we do have some on the reach of the Stevens Creek Trail between McClellan and Stevens Creek Boulevard. I don't recall what that limit is off the top of my head, but we would certainly consider and likely implement some kind of signage along the Junipero Serra Trail to direct bicycles to slow down, yield to pedestrians, maybe establish a speed limit as well, certainly.
Yeah, and this is Kwang. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. So to add something to that as well from a civil engineering perspective, yeah, during the construction documents and that design period, we'll also look at stopping site distances coupled with those design speeds to identify those potential conflict areas with pedestrians. And certainly, yes, signage will come into play where we're having turns in the trail as well, especially when you don't know what you're going to be coming upon as a bicyclist. So signs will be needed in those locations too.
Thanks, Kwang.
Yep.
I see a couple of hands raised. Let's see, Jennifer Sharon, I'm going to hit allow to talk here. And I think you just need to unmute yourself.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Great. Well, as you know, I've been a strong supporter of this project from the beginning. My question is regarding access for Apple campus, specifically Infinite Loop, as I expect that there's going to be a lot of traffic between the the buildings on Vallco Parkway, which then lead to going over the bridge and going to Apple Park, and then between that and Infinite Loop. So have discussions occurred between the city and Apple to see whether or not we can make access for them convenient and easy?
I can take a stab at that. And Evelyn, feel free to jump in. I don't know if you've had discussions with them recently as part of the design process. I know that we had had discussions with Apple during the feasibility study stage and on and off since then. We would not be providing any direct access to the Apple campus from the trail because of concerns that Apple has. They need to be able to control public access to their campus, and so they've indicated clearly in the past that people won't be going directly to and from the trail from their campus. They would have to access the trail from the public right of way, which would be at Anza Blvd for the Infinite Loop campus, and Wolf Road, I suppose, for the new campus. We have been partnering with Apple to establish a trailhead at the terminus of the trail where Calabasas Creek meets Vallco Parkway. There's going to be a real nice trailhead feature there that Apple is providing some land and an easement, I believe, to allow us to do something really nice there. So a good portion of Apple employees as well as the general public would be able to utilize that trailhead to access the trail.
That's correct. It's still the same. Apple employees will access from the trailheads at Vallco Parkway, at the Anza.
All right. I see another question here from Jennifer Griffin. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yes, thank you. I was not able to attend the meeting last week, I think, which was on the eastern end of that Zoom meeting, which it sounds like you guys are actually discussing some of the eastern stuff tonight. But what my question was, what are the plans? What were the final plans for how you all are handling the trail going across? Yes, Sunnyvale, Saratoga, it's Deanza Boulevard or Highway 9. The part there by Infinite Loop where you guys, at one point they were talking about having like a bridge, or then they talked about going under Deanza Boulevard or at grade level. Did you guys, are you going to talk about that tonight, or has that been finalized, what they're doing?
So the crossing at Deanza Boulevard is actually not included in the scope of this project. That is the western limit of our project. So we start at the east side of Deanza Boulevard and go east from there. During the feasibility study, you're absolutely correct. Those are the options that we studied. We studied both a tunnel as well as a pedestrian overcrossing. Actually, and also we studied an at-grade crossing, which included some modifications to the signalization and the off-ramp. So we've spent a lot of time looking at that, but that component will be studied in a future phase of the project, which would be what Evelyn identified as segment 1, essentially.
So what are you doing? So when you say the east side, what are you all doing in these 3? Like, you have one more meeting next week. Is that from Calabasas down to Deanza Boulevard? Is that what you all are talking about for the 3 meetings?
Yeah, so last week had a focus, and invitations went to residents living within the east segment, and then this week was more of a focus for those near the central segment, and then the last meeting is really went out citywide, but that doesn't mean we're not talking about both segments, east and central. So we're fielding questions for wherever folks have concerns or see opportunities.
So is your central area, are you stopping at Deanza Boulevard? You're not going any further west than that?
Correct.
Okay, in terms of this leg of the discussion.
Correct, yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, no, I understand now. I just was not, because I have seen in the past, you all had the big layouts in the city hall where you had the whole project from from 85 down to Calabasas. So that's no, I understand that in terms of the scope, because there you cover a lot of ground between Calabasas and Deanza Boulevard. So yeah, no. Well, anyway, and that's good. When do you all anticipate having the discussions about what is happening at Deanza Boulevard and then the western portion?
I'll turn that over to the city, because I think it's really a matter of funding.
Oh,
Yeah, it is a matter of funding. So that section will be after we complete construction of the central segment, which goes up to Deanza. And currently at the moment, that section doesn't have available funds. We only have VTA grant funds for the east and the central segment. So the city is looking to provide, we're seeking out more grant funds through other grants. So maybe TDA, some Caltrans grants. We're looking for other grants at the moment.
okay. Thank you very much. I will definitely, I understand more about it. You guys are refining this section. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. I also see a question here, and Evelyn, this might be one for you. Jennifer Sheeran is asking, are these slides available to review later? I'd like to take a closer look than just during the presentation.
Yes, we will post the slides on the city website. If you do go to our city website now, you are able to see the concept plans that are in the presentation. You can just go to cupertino.org/JST.
Great, thank you. All right, I see 2 raised hands. Stuart, I'm going to allow you to talk, so go ahead and unmute yourself. Stuart, are you there?
Yeah, here we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, I wanted to know the Lucille area there. Is there going to be any parking? And will there be any conflict with the apartment complex that is near there as well?
So my recollection, the north side of Lucille Avenue is on-street parking, is allowed. And so I don't think that would change any with what we're proposing for the trail. So I think that would be free for folks to park, whether they're using the trail or whether they live at the apartments there near the corner of Villa de Anza. I think that is what you're asking.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. Let's see, I also see a question from Jennifer Griffin.
Oh, is that me? I'm sorry. I don't think I put my hand down. I was all done. Sorry, unless there was anything. Yeah,
All right.
sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Let's see, I don't see any other questions. Oh, Jennifer, I think your hand went up again. Did you have another
Thank
question?
you. I figured out. You guys weren't anticipating doing anything to the redwood trees along 280, the buffer area there. I mean, it sounds like this trail is pretty much is on the southern side of 280s, along the drainage, but they were not going to be doing anything to remove the redwoods that are buffering 280 along the course of there, were they? I mean, I don't anticipate the trail needing to do anything like that.
Well, as the trail follows the off-ramp for southbound 280 at Wolf, the space available for a trail is a 15-foot wide easement immediately adjacent to that off-ramp. And so we have not done detailed drawings, but it does appear that there would be impacts to those redwood trees with the space that we have to put a trail through there. And Kwong, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but that's kind of been our initial observation.
Yeah, and there is some Caltrans right away that also has trees in it as well, and we're not going to be putting the trail within that right away, so those trees will likely remain. But generally, that segment through that property there that's hugging the off ramp, when we look into it further, and what we've seen so far, there is going to be some impacts, and the details of that will be determined when we get into further design.
Is that by the frontage of Vallco against 280, primarily there?
Yeah, correct. It would be the west side of Wolf.
Okay, how many? Well, this is one of those things that I would be interested in, how many of those redwoods would be going down, because I think that's information that needs to be put out there, because those are big trees. I mean, and we already, because of the, I'm going to say, devastation on the Vallco property at the basically it's just empty. That the area that is adjacent to 280 at the back side of Vallco, I'm sorry, they don't even own that property. There's like a big lot there against the wall that's been kind of like a dumping ground. There's mounds of dirt And I think there's a lot of graffiti along the sound wall. That type of thing, I would be very, very concerned about pulling out a lot of the big trees there. We probably need to have an arborist report and how many exactly. I mean, if you're taking out 10 trees, okay, that's fine. But if we're taking out 40 or 50, that's getting into issues of we really need to try to keep the trees up. Also, let's throw out the graffiti issue. I mean, are you guys going to be able to clean up any graffiti along the trail? Thank you.
Yeah, so regarding the trees, I think, as Kwong said, I think we do need to evaluate that, and that will be evaluated as part of more detailed design. I can't sit here and tell you tonight how many trees would be impacted, but we can certainly start working towards that answer. As for the graffiti abatement, I would turn that question to the city just to see how they would typically handle something like that on a trail facility.
Currently, we would work with our public works maintenance crew. Is there anything else, Roger, that you might want to add regarding the graffiti?
Well, Evelyn, thank you, and David and Kwong. I was just looking for an opportunity to talk, and so I thought, well, maybe this is it. So I'll start talking about graffiti. Why not? Yeah, we would abate a graffiti. That would be our responsibility, and we would be on it as quick, very, very quickly, Jennifer. So we wouldn't want that anywhere. And what I was going to say is really just, I'm really happy that we're getting some comments and questions and to talk about really where we are in the process. I know Evelyn touched on it, but I was going to expand on it a little bit more. So as all of you know, a feasibility study did go to the council, and it looked at all the segments, right? And what's happening right now under this work is we're looking specifically at the east and the central segments, and we're doing a survey of all of it. That's part of the scope of work, and we're taking, and you correct me when I'm not right, okay, Evelyn? And we're taking the easternmost segment, we're taking it all the way to 100% plan specifications and estimate. And we're just starting that phase. So even though you're seeing some nice slides that show a lot of things that could be, it's very conceptual. And the purpose of these meetings is to get your input, because we're very early in the design phase. And this is the ideal time to receive it, because it can, that input will be evaluated, and it may very, very well change how the ultimate design ends up. So, talk to us early, and that's why we're having these meetings. And so the idea is that eastern segment gets all the way up to 100% design, and then we'll need to go to council to get funding to authorization to complete the design. So that's regardless of how successful we are and have been with grants or not. There'll be another check-in with council prior to moving into any kind of a construction award, and a variety more of these kinds of meetings too. Then in the central segment, I think we're taking that up to what, 35%. Okay, so we're taking it up to where, yeah,
that's correct, up to 35% for environmental review. Once the east segment is completely constructed, then we will restart that design.
Yeah, and why that's a good thing for us to do is because once we get through environmental and we have a conceptual design, again through input that we receive, we really know a lot more about the project than we do right now. And we will have had the first segment costs. We'll have them pretty well figured out by then, and then we can apply what we've learned from that to the central segment. Again, we'd have to find, get additional funding and get council authorization. And regarding when we get to that western segment, it'd be my goal that we're not waiting for 1 and 2 to be completely built and then start the design work on the westernmost segment. I'd want to be getting that design going while we're, maybe we're constructing the second segment, because we want to keep that momentum going. We have our bike and ped plans that envision that being a loop, and that's the northern portion of our loop, and it's just really a great connector there, parallel to 280. So we want to just keep that going, and that would be the idea, that we get things started and we just move our way westward. So anyway, I talked quite a bit starting with graffiti, so thank you for that.
Thank you, Roger. I saw there was a question. I think it was answered. Anything else? And, you know, this information will be on the city website. And so if there's something that you want to take a closer look at, by all means, you can look at that and email the city with any questions, or you can attend our meeting next week. We will be having, that will be a citywide meeting. But I'm not seeing any more questions coming through. Oh, I do see a raised hand. Jennifer Griffin. Go ahead and unmute.
Thank you. Yeah, I just since there, I just wanted to ask, so next week then, what is the focus going to be? It'll be obviously from the Calabasas down to Apple Campus 1, but what are you all going to be focusing on next week? Is that just issues overall for the whole city?
Yeah, it's so Jennifer, it will be essentially, it'll be the same presentation, and it will be a review of the east segment and the central segment, and we'll be just looking to get input from people and where they have any specific concerns or questions. So that's really what it is. It's going to have a very similar look as the presentation tonight.
Okay, thank you. Will you guys be addressing anything to do with how essentially whatever happens to Vallco? Have you guys been able, will you be talking about the part about what perimeter roads contact with the trail? Can you go over that more next week? You talked about steps coming down. I wasn't exactly sure where those were in conjunction. You don't have to do it tonight, but if you could talk about that next week, maybe you could have some pictures of it.
Yeah. So, you know, that area is a kind of a moving target to some degree.
Yeah.
There's, as you know, the development at Vallco. There's also a project for improvements at Wolf and the 280 interchange, as well as our project. And so we're trying to mesh those three projects that are all in some stage of design. So we don't have perfect information, but we have a pretty good idea of what Perimeter Road is going to look like in its future condition, and we're getting a clearer picture of what Wolf Road will look like and the trail. So, you know, as Roger was saying, I think to this point it is conceptual. That is a part of the central segment, and so it's not going to be developed as soon as the east segment. But yeah, I mean, I can certainly field questions and you know, spend a little more time at that location just based on what we know today.
Let me just ask you, I'm still a bit confused about when you say the east section, what are you talking about? Are you talking about from Calabasas westward to De Anza Boulevard, or are you going to be building to just Wolf?
The east, yeah, so the east segment is from Wolf Road to Calabasas, you know, to Vallco Parkway.
Okay. Oh, to Vallco. Okay. And then, but what are you all actually going to be building first?
First would be the east segment, would be Wolf Road to Vallco Parkway.
Oh, okay. I get it now. Okay. But in terms of what you call the central, is that from Wolf over to De Anza Boulevard?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. And do you have the monies for that yet, or is it just the east portion that's been funded?
So we have Apple donations and we have VTA grant funds for both projects. Currently, we are in the process of executing an agreement with VTA for those funds.
Okay, are you going to build, so will you be building the east and central in conjunction with each other? And I mean, as one rollout together?
So we are focusing on the east segment from Wolf to Vallco Parkway. That will be constructed first, while simultaneously continuing the design for the central segment, which is from De Anza to Wolf. And then once construction is complete for the east segment, we will continue with the we will do construction for the central. So it will be kind of staggered. So
Okay.
with east first and then central second.
And you know, that logically, that makes a lot of sense because you have more stable construction that's already done. The hotel is done, Hyatt is done. You're not going to have to be dealing with so many uncertainties as what will be happening with the land. And maybe by the time the east portion is worked on, then the Vallco thing will have settled and you will have had more input. Okay, I understand. Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thank you. All right. Not seeing any other questions or raised hands at this point. I don't know, Evelyn, if you wanted to move on to just quickly next steps, and feel free if something else comes to mind. We're still monitoring Q&A and raised hands. So, oops.
Yeah, we can move on. And if anyone has additional questions, just raise your hand, please. So the public meeting phase. So like we mentioned before, the community input is important to the project team and to the city. So we are making it a priority for residents to provide input and are involved in the design process. In this phase of the project, we have one remaining meeting, which is May 27th for this portion of the project. So next steps, the refinement and construction phase, like I mentioned before, for the summer of 2021 to 2022, the design team will analyze the community input gathered. We're going to refine the design. In fall of 2021, we'll have community meeting. Like we said, council must authorize the construction award and the funds for it. So the earliest date construction could start is fall 2022 for the east segment. We anticipate early 2023 for the East Trail to open, and then the central segment development begins. So we we thank everyone for attending this meeting. We appreciate the feedback, the questions, the comments. If you have additional questions, please share your thoughts, or if you have additional feedback, share your thoughts via email. To stay up to date with the project, check out our project website. We also have an option to join the JST project e-notification list. Members will receive periodic updates regarding project status. And we will see you at the next community meeting. Thank you.